This week, we're taking a look at the various ways British Columbians live with loss and grief. People often describe grief as passing through stages like denial, anger, and maybe acceptance. That may not be the case, though. We're now joined by Heather Mohan, the Executive Director of Lumara Grief and Bereavement Care Society. She founded Camp Carey in 2007. It's Canada's first family bereavement retreat program. Heather, we appreciate your time here. Let's start with this idea of the stages of grief. Do you think that's an accurate way to look at the grieving process?
Absolutely not. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important conversation. We know there's thousands of children and families who are in this situation right now, who are dealing with the loss of a loved one, and they're caught in this sorrow and not knowing where to turn or what kind of resources are available for them. So this idea of the stages of grief is, a very unfortunate oversimplification of what a grief process actually is for people. It really reduces the complexity. It sort of suggests that everybody goes through the same process, which is just not true. And I think, one of the problems with this idea, which is very widespread in Western culture, particularly in medicine and in the field of psychology, is that it sets up sort of an idea of judgment, that there's a correct way to move through a process of grief. And it also really limits this understanding of a real grief experience involves physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, cognitive symptoms, things that influence your spiritual ideas and your social networks and your relationships. So it really oversimplifies it and creates judgment and harm for people. So we would really like to stand against that idea.
Are there cultures or other practices throughout the world that perhaps, if this is the right phrase, do it better or have a more connected understanding to grieving, do you think?
That's a great question, and I think one that deserves probably more time than we have to delve into today. But I would say that what's more helpful for people, and this comes at Lumara, we work a lot with Indigenous communities, and we have a more holistic view of grief. So, and that's been something that's been part of Indigenous culture for since time immemorial, is this idea that grief is a holistic experience, and it's a relational experience, so that we're always in relationship with the people that we love who have died, and that relationship, although obviously different after someone has died, is ongoing. And that's actually a very that's another myth that we run into that comes out of this idea of stages, that you have to let go of people and disconnect from them in order to move on. But really, if we think more in a relational sense or a holistic sense of grief, we don't need to let go of people. We need to make a different kind of relationship, one that's rooted in memory and legacy and ethics and shared values, but not one that says that we have to let go of people that we love, because that's a hard thing for people who are grieving to grasp.
And last question, I appreciate your time. Can you tell us just a little bit about Camp Carey and how you support people through that process there?
Absolutely, yes. As you mentioned, Camp Carey is Canada's first family bereavement program, and sadly still one of the only. There's a huge need. We have long wait lists, and we create a space there where families, entire families, can come together and spend 4 days learning more about grief, being met with compassion and a supportive community, meeting other people like them who've been through a similar thing. And it really helps people to not feel so alone. And as I said, there's a huge need. We wish we could offer this program to everyone. People are certainly welcome to go onto our website and to find out more information. It's just lumarasociety.org. But we're really trying to create an environment where people are not limited by these kind of common myths of grief, and instead they find acceptance and validation.
Heather Mohan, we very much appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.